Hey everybody, it's John here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Yesterday Origins, grabbing the Tu Casa Mi Casa achievement. This is to get all the interactables in the Baxter Mansion. First time you visit the Baxter Mansion will be at the second half of Chapter 1. What you want to do is you want to do a self-examination, so hit Y. You want to get your eye, the back of your head, your hand, and then you're going to be done with that. Hold left trigger and then go through all your inventory items. So you have the documents, the small box, which has a secondary interaction, so make sure you open it and check that the pipe is still in there. Make sure you get the SD card, the coin, which has a secondary interaction, just interact with the Y in the middle, and then finally your phone. Once you're done with that, we're going to start getting the background stuff. Firstly, you have the van, then you have the security camera to the left. Make sure you interact with the buzzer. Don't press the button quite just yet. We're going to actually save that for later. Make sure you just get the camera lens and then the keypad underneath. On the door, you have this little card reader right here on the left side. Get the emblem on top of the door and then the one on the right hand door, which is in a circle right here. After that, you want to get the security camera off to the right, and then you have the sidewalk, which is going to be on the bottom right corner. Once you're ready, hit that button on the buzzer. You should buzz in, and then the person's going to ask you to wait for a minute. You actually have to wait for a real life minute to buzz back in, but once you get in, you are going to be given this card right here. Once you get control of your character, make sure you examine the card. After you do that, examine this book on the table. Get this book on this music stand looking thing. Look at the samurai statue in the background. You want to interact with the helmet, the chest plate, the samurai sword, which you should add to your inventory, and then finally the knee brace. So after you get the sword, it's actually going to kick you back to free roam, so make sure you re-interact with the statue and then get the thigh shin guard thing. Make sure you interact with the samurai sword once it's in your inventory, and then head into this little back greenhouse room. Make sure you examine the piano. You should get an achievement here if you interacted with the phonograph from earlier. Make sure you get the sheet music, the strings to the piano, which is going to be that back part where you can see all of the strings. It has a dust cover, so you can't really see it, but right there. And then finally get the keys. Head to the right, you should see this potted plant right here. You can look at the resin and then grab the squirt bottle, which is to the right of the pot, and you'll add this to your inventory. Go back to the resin and then interact with it using that business card we got. That should scrape off some of the resin, and that will add that to our inventory. Make sure you examine both those, the card with the resin and then the squirt bottle. Take both of these things back over here, and then what you want to do is you want to grab the painting on top of the mantle and then the fireplace. And the last one, at least for Chapter 1, is just going to be the door, so try to exit, and then we are going to actually wait. This is going to be the end of Chapter 5 when you get locked in this cellar. This will count towards the mansion achievement, so make sure you do the self-examination. You want to get your gag, the back of your blindfold, the zip ties around your hands, the thing in your left pocket, and then finally your shoes. Then you want to examine the barrels in the lower right-hand corner. You want to examine Boris, who's going to be in the upper left-hand corner right here. And then you want to examine this guy in the wheelchair in the bottom left corner. And then you want to finally get this toolbox right here, which should have some stuff in it. So this is going to be kind of a long part. You have to grab each one of these tools and then bring them back to your inventory. Then hold left trigger and then left trigger examine them. It's really annoying because you can only do one at a time, and there's going to be a total of 5 of them. Make sure you save the pocket knife looking one last. So that's the one on the bottom right. So just get the ones on the top, there should be 3 of them, and then the circular one on the bottom left, and then finally get the pocket knife looking one. So the pocket knife one actually has 2 sub interactions once you get it. You want to pull out the corkscrew, which should give you a little flashback to the prologue, and then finally you want to pull out the knife, which is the thing you're going to use to escape. And that's actually going to do it now for Chapter 5. You're going to move into Chapter 6, and during the second half when you're playing as Pauline, the achievement's going to pick up. So this achievement is actually going to take place over the course of 3 chapters. Alright, so you're going to play as Pauline. You are going to escape out of the sewers. Once you're here, you want to do a self-examination. You want to get your lips, your jacket, and then your pants. So make sure you get those 3 before doing anything else. Then we are going to hold left trigger and then get our starting items. You should start with just a coin and then the tablet. So make sure you get both of those 2, and then we can actually move on to the background stuff. So first step is to get the actual sewer. Very important that you get that as soon as possible, because if you miss it, you will hit a wall later on where you can't progress in the story. Get the window, and then you want to try to get this door. You'll have these 2 people in the background who will walk back and forth, and every time they pop up, you have to stay in hiding. But when they do pop up, you want to make sure you examine them. So examine the security guard first. You want to get his face, his forearm, and then the thing in his pockets, which is going to be the thing we need to get into the door. It should give you the clue for the key. Then examine the old man. You want to get his monitor, his face, the medallion, and then the back of his wheelchair. So make sure you get that whenever they stop by. Then what you want to do is you want to go back to whatever you were doing. So in this case, we are going to get the door. Then we are going to get the door stop, which is conveniently enough under the door. Pick that up. Then what we have to do is examine that clue we got. So right trigger and get the key. Also left trigger to get the door stop if you haven't done so already. Now we are supposed to get some boxes. Grab the boxes on the right. You can only grab 1 of each size, but the second one of each size you want to examine it. So there should be a total of 6 examinations, 3 inventory items. So make sure you have that as a little checklist once you get that done. So there you go. You know you've done it right when you see 6 A buttons. Then go over here to the corner. You want to examine the sidewalk. Then you want to get the archway right here. That should give you a little loading screen, and then this little cutscene that you can't skip, sadly. Get the box in the corner. You want to examine it. Get the top as well as the handles. You should get another right trigger clue right here called handle. Once you come back, you want to right trigger examine that. So hold right trigger, then A over handle, and then you should get that. Now we need to left trigger examine all of the boxes. Each of the boxes have 3 sub examinations, both of the handles and then the top of the box. So make sure you get all 3. Once you get the last box, which should be the biggest size, you will get another right trigger clue, which is going to allow you to hide in the box. I think it's called hideout. Then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to figure out how to get the key out of the dude's pockets. The basic synopsis is you are going to put the doorstep in the sidewalk. Then you want to switch out the small box for the medium box and then swap that out for the big box. You'll hide in it and then steal the key while the guy passes by. After that, you'll get into the winery, and then what you want to do is you want to left trigger examine the key, and then what you're supposed to do is go over here, open up this toolbox from earlier. It's the same toolbox with the 5 tools. Make sure you examine all of the regular tools first, and then get the pocket knife looking one last. So same as last time, make sure you get these 5. The cool thing about this time is you don't have to stash them in your inventory, you just have to look at them, which will save us a bunch of time. Make sure you grab the knife last, and then you have another couple of sub interactions with this. Obviously you have the corkscrew, and then you have the blade itself. Make sure you get both of those before moving on. Alright, hit the lever next to the door. This will turn on the light in the cellar, which will give you access to John. You can talk to him, and then you can also switch over to him. So he should come out, and then what you want to do is you want to interact with the door. Do not interact with the keypad first, which is going to be the one on the right. If you accidentally solve that thing too early, you will sequence break the game, and you will get stuck. Examine John, and just examine his face, and then his pants right here. Then what you want to do is you want to talk to him, and then you should give him the knife as well as the clue he needs to give to Boris to finish the game, basically. Punch in the code once you're done with that, since we don't need to play as Pauline anymore. 1501 is the code. Make sure you punch that in when you are completely done, or once again, you'll sequence break the game. Switch over to John by hitting X and then A. Then what you want to do is you want to hit Y to do a self-examination. You want to get his face, his pocket, his watch, and then his back. Make sure you left trigger examine the pocket knife, get the corkscrew, which should give you a flashback, and then make sure you get the blade. Also, right trigger examine that clue we got, which should be labeled as mole. That's very important to beating the game. So after that, make sure you get the barrels in the bottom right corner, and you want to get the chemistry lab station in the back, which it has the next item. So there should be a total of 4 things on this lab bench we can interact with, 3 interactions and 1 item. First off, get the beaker to the left. The powder is going to be right here. That's going to be an inventory item. Remember to left trigger interact with that once we have control of our character again. Get this still looking thing, and then you have 1 more flask to the right. This is where I got my achievement. It's going to be for 30 gamer score, but of course there are still more hotspots you can get, so you might get the achievement earlier or later, depending on your luck. Make sure you left trigger examine the powder and then go over to Boris. Make sure you get his nose and then his hands tied behind his back while he's sleeping. So get those 2. Then you want to interact with him using the powder, which should wake him up, and then you can interact with him while he's awake, and you can get the last interactions when he's awake. Just hit Y and then get his nose and then get his hand holding the bottle, and that'll actually be the last one in the game, so that should be the last achievement, and that's all there is to it.